And so now we're going to talk about the Christmas season that's coming up. And by the way, that video, it looked like my family trying to go on vacation, you know. It's like, wow, we're only leaving for a couple days, you know. The kids are coming out with the refrigerator and everything. I'm like, I promise there's a refrigerator there, right? Like we can keep our food cool, I promise. So, yeah, so we packed way too much on vacation to take with us. And that's kind of the gist behind the series, is that coming up into the Christmas season, a lot of times it brings up a lot of baggage, so to speak, you know, that we have. Sometimes the holiday seasons can weigh us down because they might bring up emotions or they might bring up certain things with us. So what we're going to talk about for this Christmas series is how do we kind of distress, right? How do we look at these things that we have going on and what can we do about them? Because a lot of times the things that we're going through over the Christmas season, it's not just seasonal. You know, we carry this around with us all the time, but the Christmas season sometimes can seem to exasperate, you know, these issues. And so we're going to look at these and talk about these as well. So next week, we're going to see things we need to get rid of, almost to speak. So next week we're going to talk about getting rid of ourselves. You know, Jesus talks about this art of self-denial. And a lot of times over the Christmas season, you know, we're good at practicing self-denial, but then like the new year comes and all of a sudden it's back to us again. So, you know, we're going to talk about getting rid of ourselves. Week 3, we're going to talk about bitterness. You know, a lot of times Christmas season can bring up some bitterness, especially when we go around certain family members or, you know, see certain things. And so, you know, how do we look at that? And then for the Christmas message, it's going to be about control, all right, giving over control. And that's a good message. It's for non-believers, believers, all alike. So definitely be inviting friends and family for that, you know, to hear the message of Jesus Christ, because we definitely have the gospel written all through there as well. All right, so as today, what we're going to be talking about, we're going to be looking at distractions, okay, getting rid of distractions. And it's easy to become distracted. You know, I'm very easily distracted. I can be talking to somebody about something, and I'll just be like, squirrel, you know, just off to the side. Or we'll be at staff meeting talking, and, you know, we're saying, hey, guys, what's going on this week? What are we going to do Sunday? And I'm just like, you know what, hey, y'all want to go ride bikes? And they're like, No, Andy, we don't want to ride bikes today, you know. So I'm easily distracted. I know it's easy to get distracted. You know, sometimes during the message too, maybe we start picking up our phones and start looking at Amazon or checking scores or you know, falling asleep and stuff. So I understand that it's definitely easy to get distracted. And it's the same with the Christmas season, right? It's easy to become distracted during the Christmas season and really forget what Christmas is truly representing. You know, so that's one of the big deals about the Christmas distractions. So what is a distraction? All right, a lot of times distraction is more of like a mental focus, right? Our mind gets distracted, right? And then we go into other things. If you look up the definition of what distraction means, different uses for the word distraction, it can mean these. It can mean to pull apart, to separate. It's really a drawing of the mind in different directions. And the Bible talks about preoccupation, all right, about distractions being preoccupation. And that makes a lot of sense, you know, I mean, because we do have a spiritual enemy. You know, we have a spiritual enemy who wants to distract us, right? He wants to pull us apart from our relationship with God. You know, he wants to separate us from the one thing that Jesus Christ came and died for. You know, he wants to draw our mind in different directions as to disengage our faith, right, and not live our true purpose in life. And he wants to keep our minds preoccupied on other things. Like you may have remembered a couple series ago, we had one called When the Devil Knocks. And we talked about different schemes of the devil. Well, that's definitely a scheme of the devil, is to distract us. Because we need to know this today, right, about distractions. The devil, right, he doesn't need to destroy us if he can distract us. Yeah, see, the devil doesn't need to destroy us if he can distract us. And a lot of times I think that's kind of America. It's almost like, you know, distracted America. It's hard to live our Christian faith. A lot of times Christians are like on that borderline because we just fall into all the distractions that are all around us, all right? So in the Bible today, we're going to look at a very common story about distractions. All right, it's in Luke chapter 10. Luke chapter 10. And Luke is in the New Testament. All right, it is the third gospel, the third book of the New Testament. And it's a very common story, like I said. It includes Jesus. It's also got Mary and Martha in it. All right, and so we're going to look at this. And so what's happening here, a little context, is Jesus is well into his ministry. All right, he's got people following him all around, hundreds, maybe even thousands of people. He has his disciples. And so he's traveling around, and he's entering into a town called Bethany. Bethany. All right, so we're going to pick up in the account here, Luke chapter 10, verses 38 through 40. We're going to see what we can learn about this today. So it says, now as they, meaning Jesus and his disciples and them, were traveling along, he entered a village. And a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. She had a sister called Mary, who was seated at the Lord's feet, listening to his word. But Martha was distracted by all her preparations. All right, so Jesus, like it reads, Jesus has traveled along with his entourage, and so he meets this woman named Martha, and Martha says something like, hey, Jesus, I got a home, and my sister and my brother live there, so, you might be tired, you might need a place to stay, so please feel free to come stay at my house, right? Come hang out with us. My sister and my brother, we love to help you out a little bit. And Jesus, is like, well, okay, So he goes to the house, and so Martha's there, and she's trying to get all the preparations made. She's trying to do all these things, and then there's Mary just sitting and hanging out with Jesus, all right, listening to his words. So it says that Martha is distracted by all the preparations. And honestly, I can relate to this. If Jesus was coming to my house, I'd be freaking out, I'd be wanting everything perfect too. Because, for one thing, I have 4 children, so sometimes it can look like a tornado in that place. Sometimes it's called Hurricane Corbin, to be specific. And even, things get messed up, right? Things get left around. Sometimes it looks like an episode of Hoarders in there. Like somebody come and say, hey, Andy, man, can I use your bathroom? I'm like, yeah, just go straight through the path of boxes, okay? Take a left and take a right at the clothes pile, but just be careful, right? Like, don't fall into the clothes pile, all right? Daniel, the 8-year-old boy, he fell in a couple weeks ago. We didn't find him for 3 days, Good thing somebody dropped a half a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in there. He could have starved to death. So I can understand, right? I would be freaking out too. I'd be like, man, we got to clean up. We got to do everything right. So she is, she's trying to get everything ready. She's trying to make sure the casserole's out while the cobbler's getting in, trying to make sure the tea's refilled. I don't know, trying to make sure the toilet paper matches the curtains. I don't know, whatever we do to make sure, our house looks good. So I can't blame her one bit. All right, so here she is. She's running around. She's trying to do all these things. Mary's sitting there hanging out with Jesus. And so in verse 40, as it continues, and it says, and she, meaning Martha, came up to him, Jesus, and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all the serving alone? Tell her to help me. So she goes up to Jesus. She's basically like, hey, I'm working my bum off over here, and my sister's just sitting there. Tell my no-working sister to get up and help me out. And I think we can all relate, because I think we all had that one family member. There's always one in every family where everybody's up doing things, and they're just sitting on the couch oblivious to what's going on. Oh, I had no idea you're washing dishes and cleaning clothes and doing all this stuff, right? They're just oblivious to what's going on. And if you're sitting there now going, I don't think my family has one, that probably means you're it, right? You're probably the lazy one, right? All right, so she's sitting there, and she's just hanging out, and she's just sitting at the Lord's feet while Martha's getting all the work done. I just want to say, for one thing, Martha tends to get a bad rap here. Martha tends to be the distracted one, and Mary's doing what you're supposed to do. Well, Martha, for one, Martha is the head of her household at the time, okay? That is her home. And in the culture she was living in, that's not a normal thing, right? So she's kind of like, going against the face of her culture, and she has her own home. She is she's the upkeep of her home. And so, for one thing, she is a very strong, independent woman, right, who is defying the face of her culture at the time, saying a woman can't do these things. All right. So Martha goes up to Jesus, and it's not just Jesus, right? Jesus he has his 12 disciples. He probably has hundreds, maybe thousands of people following him. So whenever she invites Jesus back to her home, she's inviting him, his 12 disciples, and maybe even a couple other people to her home, right? Like maybe some people who's healed, who's like hanging out closely with them. So, I mean, there could be 20 people in her home right now. All right, so she is doing a lot for a lot of people. And this word preparation, when you really define it in the Greek in which it was written, the foundation of the word means to serve. But then when you add in another context to the word preparation here, it means specifically doing God's work. It's talking about somebody who is doing God's work. This word's also been translated as ministry and ministering. So Martha was ministering to Jesus and all his disciples, right? He's out, he's trying to save souls, right? He's being a light to the blind, and so she invites him back to the house, and everything she's doing is right and good. You know, I mean, she's not doing anything bad. She is ministering to Jesus. She is feeding them. She is clothing them, right? She is giving them a place to stay and a place to sleep. So basically, she's not doing anything wrong. She is ministering to Jesus. And so she goes up, and she's like, man, I'm working my tail off over here. And Mary, by the way, you're not a guest. You live here, right? So like you're hanging out with the guest. That's not the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be over here with me, helping me with all these preparations, right? There's too many people here. I need some help. And so in verse 41 and 42, Jesus says something very loving to her. But the Lord answered and said to her, Martha, Martha, you are worried and bothered about so many things, but only one thing is necessary. For Mary has chosen the good part, which shall not be taken away from her. It's like, Martha, Martha, you have a great heart, and you're doing a really great job, right? I mean, you're doing a really great job. I appreciate this. And you know what? I need people like you. I need good OCD, just, perfect servants. People who want to do a well job, just very highly dedicated servants. I need people like you to spread my kingdom. And so what you're doing, it's not bad. It's not bad. But don't try to impress me, right? You're running around, you're trying to impress me, trying to do all these things. But look, there's something better. Just come hang out with me. Man, just come sit at my feet. I'm here. I'm right now. This is what I truly want. I appreciate what you're doing. It's really helping me out. But I just want you to come spend time with me. Just come sit at my feet. Let's talk. Sit in my word. And that's awesome. That's awesome. And I can relate. Because I'm kind of like a Martha type person. I always have to be doing something. I'm OCD, right? I'm one of these perfectionist people. I have to be doing something, right? I always feel like I have to be doing something, almost like I have to earn downtime. Like I can't sit around if something needs to be clean. It's just on my mind. So I understand where kind of Martha's coming from, right? Like I want everything to be perfect. And sometimes I forget to just sit at the feet of Jesus. It's all about the relationship, to sit at the feet of Jesus. It's like in Romans chapter 7, Paul says, man, in my inner being, I delight in God's law, but I find another law at work within my mind and within the members of my body, waging war against my soul. I feel the same way. In my inner being, man, I want to be a perfect Christian. And I want to be that guy, and I always want to just spend time with Jesus, spend time with His Word. I want to be the guy raising my hands, praising Jesus all the time. I never want to be angry. I never want to say things I don't mean, right? I want to be that perfect Christian, but I have this war within me. For one thing, the war within the flesh, within my flesh, my desires, but also this war of my mind, this mind of distractions. It's so easy to become distracted and forget what this Christian thing is all about anyway, about our relationship with Jesus Christ. And maybe some of you in this room feel the same way today. We want to sit at the feet of Jesus, but we're just too distracted. We're just too distracted, even with things of life. And it's not like what we're doing are bad. It's not like we're out being bad, horrible people, right? We're just living life. We're doing things. There's so many things in life to be done, but a lot of times sitting at the feet of Jesus becomes last instead of first. So it's not the fact we're out doing bad things. It's just the fact that we're forgetting about what this is truly about. We're forgetting that it's about a relationship with Jesus. He just wants us simply to sit at his feet first and foremost. We're forgetting the most necessary thing in our new life, which is abiding in his word. But those are the first things to leave when the distractions get great. And so it's so easy to become distracted. And like we'll sit here and say, okay, I'm going to read my Bible today. I'm reading my Bible. I'm going to put my phone up. All right, I'm having a quiet time. All right, start reading. Wait a minute. Somebody just texted. I'm just going to check it real quick. It could be work. First thing in the morning. You know, it could be work. So let me check work. Okay. Oh man, I got an email. I need to check that one too. Okay, let me get this email here. Oh, there's another one. Oh, somebody just posted a video on Facebook. Somebody's going live. All right, wait a minute. You know, it's live. I can't miss it. So here we go. And while I'm at it, I might as well check my social media feed. And there's a comment. Okay, and then thinking about it. Wow, today. That's right. I got to wash clothes today. Then I got to go to the store. Oh, tonight's the game. Everybody's coming over. I got to get something to eat. But before we do that, hang on a second. Okay, I'm gonna read my Bible. Here we go. What's that? Oh man, who can miss that one? That new cat video. Love those things. That's just so cute. Jesus will understand. He loves kittens too. I mean, how many people can relate with that, right? We sit down and read our Bible, and all of a sudden, bam, everything seems to happen. And then there we go, we just start paying attention instead of saying, it can wait 5 minutes. It can wait 10 minutes. But like I said, it's not like the things are bad. It's not like, they're horrible things. They're just not the best. It's not the number one thing in our lives. And so it's so easy to become distracted. So something else we should know today is this. The most difficult choices aren't between the good and bad, but between the good and best. It's not like the good and bad. Like, you don't have to convince me not to go out and rob a store. You don't have to convince me not to go out and break the law and do horrible things and treat people bad. It's just between the good and the best. I can wait in the morning 10 minutes to do my morning routine until I get the word, until I get prayer. But just become too distracted. Just like with the Christmas season, same way, right? It's easy to get lost in the hustle and bustle of the season that's about to come up and get lost in all the distractions, especially if you're married with a family. I mean, there's a lot going on during the Christmas season. It's like, man, okay, we got to do our Christmas shopping this year. So let's see, we got to get each other, and we got to get our kids, and then we got to get your parents something, okay? Then we got to get your siblings something. Then we got to get all the nieces and nephews, so we need to be thinking about that. We got to go online. We got to check Amazon, make sure we got all the Christmas stuff bought, and then, of course, we got to get the boss something. Now we have a Christmas party at work. You got a Christmas party at work, so we need to go on the calendar, okay? We need to write that down, make sure we got that in. Then we got the Secret Santa at work, too, and I got to bake some stuff for that stuff, too, so we got to put that in. The kids, okay, now we got a Christmas play for one kid. We got a dance recital for another. Then we got a chorus concert for another. So we got to, got to make sure you put that in. Then my niece has a concert too that I really want to get to because I didn't get to make it to it last year. And then, oh man, those Christmas movies are coming on. I want to see the claymation Rudolph. I want to see the cartoon Frosty the Snowman. All that good stuff. We have to work those in. And then of course, we have the Christmas. So my family's Christmas is on Wednesday. Your family Christmas is on Thursday. We're going to have ours Thursday night. And then Friday, right, we got Aunt Betsy's Christmas over there, and then we have all that stuff. So we can't forget about all that. So we got all stuff going on at Christmas. But wait a minute. We've got to read the Christmas story. Okay, hang on. We got to read. So Luke. All right, let's go to Luke. Let's go read the first one in Luke. So here we go. I'm going to go to Luke, and oh man, my phone just buzzed. Oh, I forgot I got to buy that thing on Amazon. There we go. We got it. All right, here we go. Reading Luke. And that. Oh man, come on now. Oh, them kittens. I tell you what, boy, they're just... Honey, let's go buy a cat for Christmas. See? But it's easy, though, It's easy to get lost in the hustle, bustle of Christmas and get lost in all the distractions and forget about what Christmas is truly about. So what is Christmas truly about? Let's see. There's some books in Isaiah that I would like to look at and see what the real meaning of Christmas is. All right, to see what we should be keeping our focus on. And there's a lot of them, but I like these Isaiah. So we're going to look at Isaiah chapter 9 first, 2 through 7. And then we're going to flip up to Isaiah 61, verses 1 and the first part of 2. All right, so the book of Isaiah is in the Old Testament, about halfway through. All right, this is a prophet. He is a major prophet, is what he is called. All right, so Isaiah chapter 9, starting in verse 2. The people who walk in darkness will see a great light. Those who live in a dark land, the light will shine on them. You shall multiply the nation. You shall increase their gladness. They will be glad in your presence, as with the gladness of harvest, as when men rejoice when they divide the spoil. For you shall break the yoke of their burden, and the staff on their shoulders, the rod of their oppression, as at the battle of Midian. For every boot of the booted warrior in the battle tumult, and the cloak rolled in blood, will be for burning, fuel for the fire. For a child will be born to us, a son will be given to us, and the government will rest on his shoulders. And his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Eternal Father, Prince of Peace. There will be no end to his increase, and of his government or of peace, and on the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and to uphold it with justice and righteousness. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will accomplish this. That is a prophecy about the coming of Jesus, the birth of Jesus. So as we look at Isaiah chapter 61, verses 1, the first part of 2, this is something Jesus literally read when he was talking about himself. He read this in the company of Pharisees in the temple. All right, so it's Isaiah 61, verse 1. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the afflicted. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and freedom to the prisoners, to proclaim the favorable year of the Lord. What is Christmas all about? There are people walking in darkness. People walking in darkness. Cannot see around us. Looking for things in this world. Trying to find peace, trying to find love, trying to find hope, blind and deaf and mute, and cannot see around us. We cannot truly see around us because we are in this darkness of the lies of the world and the lies of Satan. We have these burdens. We have these straps on our shoulders. We carry them around, right? These rods of oppression. We have these. People walk around in addiction and bitterness and unforgiveness and discontentment. We are walking around with these burdens upon us. But while we're walking around in darkness, he's saying there will be a great light, the light of men, right? A light that the world has never known will come into this world, and he will break the yoke of the oppression. He will break the burden that is on their backs. He will give them new life and a new hope. And the things the enemy wanted to use against us, all these things he had, like the boots they wore against us, the cloaks they had that has our blood on them. He says, man, there'll be nothing like fuel for the fire, right? There will be nothing but fuel for God's holy fire, which can turn all things that we go through for our good. And whenever we see this, whenever we trust in God, we will be glad in his presence. Like a farmer who had his tool, right? Like a farmer who has his crop. Someone who has planted seeds and watched it grow, and now he is seeing his harvest come in. Whenever we trust in God and we see him work in our lives, we will be glad whenever we know that God is alive and God is true. And this will happen because a child is born to us. We will be happy because a son has been given to us. And not just any son, the Son of God. Right? And he will be called the Wonderful Counselor, the one who knows us better than we know ourselves. When we go through troubles, when we go through trials, when we have questions, we have doubts in this world, he can give us the counsel, and he can help us with our grief, he can help us with our bitterness, he can help us with all those things because he is our wonderful counselor who can minister to our spirits and to our emotions, the place where we truly need it. He is called the mighty God, the one who can do all things in our lives. The arm of the Lord is never too short to heal or to help in our lives, right? He will have a church, and upon that church the gates of hell shall not prevail against it, because he is the mighty God who can do all things. He is the Prince of Peace. He is the one who can heal the gap between a perfect God and an unholy people. So he can bring peace between God and man. And not just that, he can go into our spirits and give us a peace that surpasses all understanding. That no matter what goes on in this world, we can have this eternal security, this eternal peace, right? Because he is the exact representation of the Father. This baby, this child is the exact representation of the Father. And the deity, the whole deity, the whole Godhead is dwelling within him. He is God on earth. He has dwelt among us. And he is the name that is above every name, right? He is the Lord God. He is the King of Kings. That's right. Because the Spirit of the Lord is upon him. He will take and he will bind up the brokenhearted. He will draw people to himself. So yes, he will be a father to the fatherless. He will make the unworthy worthy. He can love the unlovable. He can forgive the unforgivable. He can give hope to the hopeless. So yes, you go tell the captives that they can be set free, right? You go and tell the afflicted that there is good news. There is the gospel. There is one who can bridge the gap between God and mankind. And I tell you what, I know he can, because he turned this worthless drunk into a holy child of God, right? Into a worthy child of God. Because let me tell you, now is the time of God's favor, right? He is proclaiming that right now is the time of God's favor. And so it is happening because the Lord is zealous about this. God is zealous about us. The King of Kings and the Lord of Lords looks down on a dark, broken world and says, I got to have these people. I see you struggling, and I know you're struggling. I want to be there for you, right? But our relationship is broken. We need to have this perfect relationship. So I'm going to send my son to the earth so he can live the perfect life that you cannot live. And he will go to a cross and he will die to make sure that this gap is bridged for each other. And I'm zealous about this. And if I want it to happen, it's going to happen, right? And that's exactly what Jesus represents, born to us from a virgin. As a baby, it's showing that God is for us. God is fighting for us. He hasn't forgotten about us. He loves us, and he's doing what he can in order so that he can bridge the gap between God and man. And so God loves us. He is there for us. He is on our side, and Jesus Christ represents the greatest promise that God has ever given to the world. And that, my friends, is what Christmas is all about. The greatest promise. So it's easy to get lost in the distractions of Christmas and forget what it's all about. But all these things we're doing, man, seeing family, gifting people, hanging out, fellowshipping, these things are all right. They're okay, right? They're good things. But they're just not the best. We can't neglect the best for just the good. While doing the good, we have to make sure the best is still at the forefront. So quickly, before we leave off today, we'll talk about 2 ways that we can help over this holiday season and in our lives. For one, diminish the distractions. We have to make a choice in our life to do this, because God's going to help us, but we have to be a part of the solution too. So we have to help diminish the distractions. For instance, like the phone. There are times we have to put this little thing away and leave it alone for a little bit. I mean, it's kind of crazy if you think about it. For thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years, somehow mankind has seemed to survive without the cell phone. But over the past 2 decades, for some reason, we can't live without it now. I mean, we freak out 5 minutes. It's actually a new fear. It's called FOMO, the fear of missing out. Psychologists say that's why people keep checking their phones, because they're afraid they're going to miss out on something. And more adults have it than children. We get so wrapped up on downing the millennials and all these children for their screen times when adults do the same thing. The average person spends 2 hours a day on social media. But we can't find 15 minutes to sit at the feet of Jesus. There's just so many distractions we have. Could be friends, right? Maybe our friends are taken away from Jesus. Maybe they're not the people we need to have in our lives. Maybe it's the person you're dating. Maybe you need to delete the boyfriend or the girlfriend and let God upgrade them. Could be all kinds of things. Could be work. Maybe we're spending too much time at work and not enough time at the feet of Jesus, right? There's so many distractions. We have to make a conscious decision to help diminish the distractions. And then next, focus on what is important. Focus on what is important. I call it like a fixed purpose, fixed gaze. And a lot of it's about having our priorities in line, right? A lot of it's about having our priorities in line. The book of Proverbs, chapter 4, talks about this in verses 25 and 27. It reads this: let your eyes look directly ahead, and let your gaze be fixed straight in front of you. Watch the path of your feet, and all your ways will be established. Do not turn to the right nor to the left. Turn your foot from evil. A fixed gaze, a fixed path, walking the path, right? Purposeful living, purposeful walking, purposeful gazing. And there's so many examples of this in the Bible, like the author of Hebrews says to fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. Peter, in the book in Matthew chapter 14, whenever he went to walk on water, Jesus walked on the water, Matthew went to it. When he was staring at Jesus, when he had his fixed gaze on Jesus, he was walking on the water. He could rise above his distractions, all the things, the storms of his life. But as soon as he started looking around at the storms of life and started getting distracted on the things around him, he began to sink. That's the same way with us. When we fix our eyes on Jesus, it seems like we can handle our problems and our distractions a little better, man. But we start looking around, start focusing on distractions, that's whenever we begin to sink as well. So we have to be purposeful. This is something I use because, honestly, I have a really busy life. Right? Full-time ministry. I do part-time counseling. I'm finishing up my school for counseling full-time. I got 4 children, right? Got another family, mom and dad. I'm trying to spend time with them. Everybody's getting older, you know. So, I mean, I got a lot going on. And people say, well, how do you do it? I say, well, I just don't sleep, right? That's part of it. But it's priorities, man. It's priorities. There's so many things I love to do. Man, I love to sit down and play video games for about 3 or 4 hours. But I don't have time for it. But it's okay. Because you know what? I've spent time with God. I've spent time with my family, right? I'm making sure I'm doing right in school so that way I can learn as much as I can to help more people as much as I can. You know, I'm living, I'm living God's will, so that can go out the window right now. There'll be time for stuff like that, but it's just not right now. If I want to get all these things done, I can have priorities. God has planned it. He's helped me out, and I can still get rest in the meantime. It's just fixed priorities. It's the same thing with seeking Jesus. We call it keeping the main thing the main thing. Because it's so funny, honestly. You know, sometimes people say, well, I can't live without Jesus. But we do it all the time. Oh, I'm nothing without Jesus. But I don't hardly include him in anything. And then during the most stressful time of the year, the holiday season, we got all this stuff going on. We got all these stressors. We'll say, hey, man, when I read the Bible, when I pray, when I'm connected with God, I don't feel as stressed out. I feel pretty good. But yet during the most stressful time of the year, the first thing to go is the thing that doesn't make us feel stressed out. So I'm running around Christmas wondering why I'm all stressed out. It's because I've neglected the one thing that takes it away. So we have to be purposeful. We have to make sure that we're still sitting at the feet of Jesus. That's why we started off with distractions. Over the Christmas season, while we're doing all these things that are awesome, hanging out with family, gifting people with things they need, serving, even helping out with like stuff for like Hope for Humanity, preparations, right? Things that are God's will, things that God wants us to do, right? Things that God blessed us with in our lives. While we're doing these things that are good, let's don't forget about what's best. Let's seek God even more during this Christmas season. Let's make sure that no matter what, while we got the calendar and we're planning out holidays and we're planning out Christmases and we're planning out Christmas plays, the number one thing on there is Bible time, God time, quiet time. And let's keep the main thing the main thing. Let's fix our gaze, keep our path straight. And while we're doing these great preparations, let's remember, Jesus wants us to sit at his feet. He just wants to spend time with us. The reason why he was born, the reason why he came and died, is for the relationship. Just don't neglect the one thing that he gave his life for, is a relationship with us. So let's watch out for the distractions. And let's have a good Christmas season, focused on him. Let's go to the Lord in prayer.